Hello everyone, my name is Ethan Mark. I want to tell you about how I lived amongst millionaires for 10 years and learned how to get rich. At first, you will think it's easy, because for children born with money, there is no problem in attracting finances. These children have everything. But will you be surprised to learn that I am the son of an ordinary gardener? That's right, my dad is a gardener, and we never dreamt of having a different life before. But what do we have now? Well, you'll find out later. Stay tuned, watch to the end of my story, like the video and comment. My father raised me alone. My mother left long ago to build a life without us. Dad has no higher education, and for this reason, he worked hard to provide for me. Dad wandered from one job to another, but then he got lucky and was offered a job as a gardener. A huge plus was that you had to live in a rich house. Also, we lived in a rented apartment and we saved on pay. The employers got in my father's position and let him take me with him. I was barely 8 years old at the time. I remember the day we moved. I packed out of habit, so often we changed apartments, and when my father brought me to such a fancy mansion, my jaw dropped. I couldn't believe this was happening at all. Dad, did you sell all your organs to buy this house? Son, what are you? Come on. I also sold yours, said my dad. I wasn't in the mood for jokes then. I turned to him slowly, and Dad immediately said, yes, I was joking. This is my new job, and we are allowed to live here. I immediately ran to see our new room. It was more luxurious than any apartment we'd ever rented in our entire lives, and much larger than our entire apartment. There were many people in the house. Most of them were servants. Our host is a millionaire. He had several types of business, and he was constantly talking to someone on the phone. For the next 10 years, all I heard were words like stocks, stock market, default, and other words I didn't understand. My father and I settled in quite well. After just a couple of months, I knew everyone by sight. The servants loved me. I was the only child amongst the servants, and the cooks spoilt me rotten. They gave me cookies, souffle, or ice cream. I often helped my father after hours and on weekends. We tended the garden. Every day we mowed, cleaned, watered. Personally, I liked it. When I was tired, I would lie down on a chaise lounge chair by a sprawling apple tree and look out at the beautiful orchard. Sometimes I would fall asleep. Very often, Mr. Ritchie, the owner, would walk around the orchard, either talking on the phone or with business partners. When they were having tea in the garden, I used to bring them food on a tray or whatever they asked for. Kind of unintentionally, but I would hear their conversations and memorize them. I wanted to know what they were talking about. My dad had an economics book in his suitcase, and when I grew up, I used to read it before I went to bed. I was really curious about it. And one day, our host, Mr. Ritchie, came home very upset. I already knew what to do in such cases, so I immediately brought him a tray of whiskey, ice, and his favorite cigars. Here, sir, maybe you'd like some refreshment. Thank you, Ethan, you're observant. I like that quality in people. Are you reading something? What? You've got a book on economics from the year 2000. If you want to understand what's going on in the world, you have to study it a little deeper. Yes, sir, that's the 8th one. What was the first one? A math book. Good for you. That's smart. Are you studying economics because the school said so? No, sir, I'm just curious. Mr. Ritchie took one big sip, put the glass on the table, sighed, and then turned to me again. I wish my son, unlike you, was interested in what I do. Would you like to do business with him? Yes, he is my heir. He's just interested in spending, but not in making money. With all due respect, sir, explain to him that the only thing you can do without money is debt. That's right. Then his phone rang and he picked it up and got very angry, then started swearing. I wanted to leave, but Mr. Ritchie asked me to pour him another whiskey. He said he'd made a big loss because he'd bet on the wrong company. And were you sure about this company? Honestly, I didn't know. I just trusted my intuition. I wanted to buy the stock and I bought it, but it didn't go up. Outline a circle around those businesses that you understand, and then remove the ones that don't qualify based on value, good management, and limited exposure to tough times. Buy a company if you want to own it, not because you want the stock to go up. People became successful investors because they settled on successful companies. Sooner or later, the market will reflect the business. How do you know that? That's not me. That's a quote from Warren Buffett, the entrepreneur. That's a good point. Wouldn't you like to learn and practice your knowledge in business? If it's possible, yes. Come to my office tomorrow at 8 a.m. and we'll talk. In the morning, I went to his office as we had agreed. His son Phil was already sitting in his office fiddling with his phone. He sat us down across from him, then asked what each of us wanted out of life. Phil said he wanted freedom, and I said I wanted to be rich. Phil laughed. He said all beggars want money. No surprises there. Then I told him that statistics show that more than half of the children of rich parents are poor just because they haven't learnt how to spend money. You mean to make money. Everyone can make money, but not everyone can spend it properly. And that's what I meant. You're getting a little too smart for your own good, aren't you, gardener? Phil, stop it. I wanted us to have a conversation, but you don't seem ready for it. Go about your business. The owner and I sat down to discuss the latest economic news, and he kept asking me what I thought about it. An hour later, a man came into the office. He was an assistant to the owner, who told him to teach me the subtleties of doing business, economics, and everything related to it. The training was free. Every day I spent up to 3 hours on classes, and then I worked on my own until late at night. In parallel, I learned how to play golf, etiquette, manners, and how to properly communicate with rich people. A month later, there was a guest reception at the host's house. Stately and very serious businessmen came. I did my job, served drinks, helped my father. When Mr. Ritchie started playing mini-golf with his partners, he called me over and gave me a club. I just hit the hole the first time, since I was already learning. One of the guests called my host an ignoramus because he had interfered with their game with his maid. Only a fool would agree and ruin the whole mood, he said. I didn't remain silent. It's good that you see me, but I am not a fool. I am the gardener's son. But you, next time, if you don't see a fool in the market, then it's yourself. Mr. Ritchie exploded with laughter. The man began to lash out at me, and then he threw his glass of drink and drove away. My host only thanks me for it. You let him know that he was taught by a child and the gardener's son. I like you, Ethan. I want to offer you a job, Mr. Ritchie said suddenly. The next day, I was already sitting in his office in the morning, and we did the calculations together. I suggested an unconventional way out of many situations, and although the scheme was rather dubious, Mr. Ritchie decided to take a risk and trust his intuition again. Every day together, we watched the market, analysed the list of companies worth investing in. He took me to meetings with him, introduced me to partners and clients. That's how time passed until I was 18 years old. Gradually, I started to work in his team of analysts. I carefully monitored the market, selected the best offers, and already decided whether to refuse cooperation or not. I had mistakes and failures, and I was very nervous, but my boss told me that if I was wrong, it meant I was on the right track. Meanwhile, Phil only continued to spend and hated me even more. A few decent tailored suits appeared in my closet. Mr. Ritchie was like without hands without me, and always said he dreamt of working with his son like that. A year later, I made my investment in the same company, and success awaited me. My father no longer needed to work as a gardener because I had saved the money for us to buy a house. Less luxurious, of course, but my own and comfortable. My father was proud of me, as was Mr. Ritchie. Dad quit his job and stayed at home and did what he loved best, cooking and playing the guitar. He planted a garden, but now his own, and planted flowers there. Our lives changed 100%, and it was all because of the interest and hard work. My advice to all of you guys is to listen to yourself. What do you really want out of life? Because only you decide how to live and provide for yourself. Am I right?
Would you like to have some kind of superpower? What would you choose? I'd prefer teleportation, telekinesis, or the ability to inspire. But my friends say I already have a special gift. I will tell you about it now. According to my mother's story, the day I was born was crazy weather. Rain turned to snow, snow to rain, then suddenly sunshine. They were very much waiting for my birth with my father, since their age was old and there were no more children. It will seem strange, but I did not grow and develop like all children. At about 9 months, I already began to walk, and when I was barely 2 years old, I was already talking. Because of my rapid development and early age, I could not go to kindergarten, so my parents hired teachers and I studied at home. My mother said that I have a great desire and interest in studying. All night, there were practically no toys in my room. I was literally drowning in encyclopedias. I could not quench my thirst for knowledge. I thought I was getting stronger when I knew more. My parents were proud that I had such a great memory and that I was such a gifted child. They were sure that I was born for a special purpose. With this thought in mind, I continued to develop my skills. At about 6 years old, I already knew 2 foreign languages, Spanish and French. As expected, I had to go up the social ladder gradually, so when I went to first grade, I was really bored. Just imagine that you are 18 years old in development, and you are sitting among children and learning the alphabet. But my parents asked me to be patient, to give them time to prepare the principal and teachers for my talent. The first 6 months, I still somehow lasted, but I was irritated by my peers, who drew letters as they fell, read from syllables, and did not know the periodic table. For my little rebellion and refusal to get acquainted with the letter R, I was put alone in the very back of the desks. This proved to be a good thing, because there I was not disturbed by anyone, and I allowed myself to continue studying probability theory. My classmates were afraid of my appearance. I think because I felt much older than them and looked like a baby, and children feel each other. I managed to pretend to be normal, but over time, my acting skills began to fail. Okay, I admit, I did it on purpose. Our teacher, Miss Gandhi, was a nice girl, quite erudite, correct, and very attractive to look at. I told you I was only a child on the outside. I can already evaluate women's beauty. So once, in one of the lessons, she gave us a task. She was preparing for some courses in mathematics. Miss Gandhi tried to multiply, divide, add up large numbers in her mind. 123 times 634, you get 77,981. 2, I said. What? Will be 77,982. The teacher looked questioningly at the classroom door, but there was no one else there. First, she checked everything on the calculator, then looked at the class. Everyone was busy with her task. Everyone except me. She asked if I had spoken to her. Well, I did not miss the opportunity to have a dialogue with her. I told her that I am actually a little different. My teacher was thrilled. She admired my talent for 10 minutes. And then she imagined telling the principal about me and me bringing the school gold medals in intellectual competitions. When I came home after school, my parents were furious. They didn't like the idea of me acting on my own. They considered my gift exceptional, and they were afraid that it might cost us dearly, that others may begin to think that I was abnormal. In short, they chose silence, like I'm some kind of mutant. I told them they promised to train teachers, but they never did, and I was tired of sitting here like this. The next day, I had a meeting with my parents at the principal's office, where I demonstrated my abilities. Miss Gandhi kept saying that I was unique and that I couldn't hide it. She called the parents' outburst a crime. In general, as expected, I participated in many Olympiads and competitions on behalf of the school. Since I was too young, I was offered to go to school, but at the same time to study at the level that is convenient for me. When I was 12 years old, I passed all the exams in the school curriculum and graduated with high school students. By then, I was already a local star. I was asked to create a club for gifted children and work with the children there, and I agreed. But that's not all. My fame, of course, went beyond the school. Strangers began to come visit us and offer to participate in their projects. Among them were not only honest businessmen, but also scammers. They saw my gift from their own angle, promised to pay. I admit, by that time I was looking for something unusual, a modern place of work where people would not pay attention to my age. And I found it. A few years later, after passing an interview and completing dozens of tricky tasks, I was working for an American multinational corporation, and you know what? If you feel a talent, the ability to come up with something, create. Do not give in to mass influence. Do not hesitate to act. No one can feel you like you do.